Discover the amazing moment a CEO's silent daughter found connection with a single dad in sign language. Jenna felt like a ghost in the opulent halls of her father's office, each marble surface reflecting an image of privilege that weighed heavily on her spirit. Though the world saw her as the daughter of a powerful CEO, she lived in silence, her deafness a barrier that isolated her from the vibrant exchanges unfolding around her. In the shadows of expectation, she navigated life with a delicate sketchpad tucked under her arm, her fingers stained with charcoal, a world built on whispers and intricate lines that expressed what she could never voice. Her father was relentless, a man whose ambition cloaked her own aspirations like a thick fog. He often brought home moments cloaked in grandeur, asking her to be the perfect daughter, to radiate the image of success she could hardly claim. Every conversation boomed in expectations and accolades she felt unworthy of. Who was she to speak, to disrupt with her silent existence? As she sketched her deepest thoughts, an ethereal river flowing through her pages, her heart longed for something more, for connection that surpassed the stark walls built by privilege. Then came the charity fundraiser, an opportunity she approached with reluctant curiosity, a chance to escape. The thought of organizing tables in a stifling ballroom while her father's gaze bore down on her only deepened her unease. But as the pitying looks and inviting smiles flooded toward the stage, something shifted within her. Just beyond the glass doors, in a dimly lit corner, stood Mike, a mechanic with the kind of earnestness that filled the air with promise. He was caught mid-explanation, his hands animated, expressing value and community, while his daughter Emma clung to his side. In that moment, the gravity of her familiarity suffocated her, igniting an internal war. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. What if she approached him? What if he could unravel the stifled threads of her existence? But fear struck her, the kind that burrowed deep into her chest. What would her father think? Yet the idea of remaining in silence felt like a cage, every passing moment heightening her race against conformity. A pang of recognition for Mike's struggle mirrored her own, a shared isolation among the clamor of lives led by others' expectations. As they exchanged thoughts, their vulnerabilities became chapters of a secret story, one where her lack of voice met his quiet determination, where his rough hands built dreams for Emma and hers delicately created silent worlds of color. Yet as each conversation melted barriers, an impending storm gathered strength, her father's looming shadow off in the distance whispered disapproval. A single father's economic struggles threatened everything she craved, and into the chasm of uncertainty, she peered. Would she confront him, forging a new path? Or would she let fear dictate her choices? Anxiety tightened around her mind, a mix of desperation and longing that curdled her insides. Choices emerged, each decision splintering her will. Jenna felt the weight of her father's expectations clawing at her resolve, tears of silent frustration tempting her, and in that suffocating moment, she yearned to explode out of the cage of obligation and into the passionate freedom of honesty. But with every heartbeat, the choice loomed heavier, to fight or to fade. As Jenna stood frozen in the ornate ballroom, the opulence suffocating her, she felt a surge of resolve. It was as if the air had shifted, allowing the whispers of her own thoughts to rise above the cacophony of her father's world. Mike's presence beckoned her, not just as a man who shared a moment of understanding, but as a lifeline tethered to a reality she had long been denied. Drawing a deep breath, she thrust her sketchpad forward, feeling its weight steady her trembling hands. In her mind, the outline of the life she envisioned began to crystallize, a life where she would not be held hostage by anyone's expectations but her own. No longer would she allow silence to be her identity, it would become her canvas. With a surge of defiance, she stepped out of her father's shadow and toward Mike, each step echoing with the intent of transformation. The conversation flowed more easily than she anticipated. She communicated through signs, her artful gestures imbued with the passion and energy she had kept hidden for too long. In response, Mike's eyes widened with interest, understanding, and admiration, an expression she had seldom witnessed. With each shared thought, walls crumbled, revealing hidden depths both had been too afraid to explore. What do you want to be remembered for? He signed, his fingers deftly forming characters that danced in the air. The question hit her like a shockwave. Jenna paused, grappling with the implications of it. She had never considered herself worthy of legacy or remembrance. But staring into Mike's earnest gaze, she felt her heart stir. I want to create, she signed slowly, the revelation illuminating her soul. I want to speak through art. To connect. His smile was a beacon, illuminating the possibilities she had only dared to whisper within herself. For a fleeting moment, Jenna felt herself her true self surface from beneath layers of expectation. The act of voicing her desire, even through sign, emboldened her spirit. It was a declaration of her existence, a promise to herself that she would no longer live in the margins, yet, as excitement coursed through her, a nagging doubt crept back into her mind, the looming figure of her father, an intangible weight that refused to diminish. What would he think if he knew she was not conforming to the carefully crafted image of the perfect daughter? As Mike's laughter filled the space between them, she sensed the urgency swelling inside her, a simultaneous fear and exhilaration pushing her to choose. Will you come to the studio? She finally signed, her heart battered but hopeful. His eyes searched hers, a mix of surprise and enthusiasm blooming on his face, and in that openness, Jenna saw an opportunity for more than just conversation. This was a chance to collaborate, to create something real. But with the thought of her father's disdain swirling in her mind, the unresolved tension still persisted. Could she truly reconcile these separate worlds, the one of privilege and expectation and the one of creativity and freedom? As Mike nodded, a spark of possibility igniting the air, Jenna felt the weight of her impending choice hovering just above her shoulders. The moment felt pivotal, the threshold of a new beginning, but at what cost? With a mixture of excitement and dread, she realized she had reached a crossroads. Who would she become? The moment of decision loomed ahead, and it was clear that she was stepping into a realm filled with both potential and peril. Would she have the courage to confront her father and seize the life that beckoned, or would the chains of expectation bind her once more? In that instant, a profound seriousness settled over her. Jenna felt she was on the brink of something transformative. The walls of silence she'd built were beginning to fracture, but could she truly break free? The burden of choice awaited in the wings, ready to unfold. Jenna stepped away from the ballroom, her heart pounding in her chest, each heartbeat resonating with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The air outside felt laced with promise, an invisible thread connecting her to the uncharted territory of her life, away from her father's suffocating expectations. She glanced at Mike, his eyes sparkling, alive with shared enthusiasm, and felt an unfamiliar warmth blooming in her chest. The decision she had made to invite him to the studio had ignited a flicker of hope deep within her. Yet, as she walked alongside him, equal parts energizing and terrifying, she questioned herself. Could she truly carve a space for her artistry, or would the weight of her family's expectations crush her spirit? At the studio, she carefully arranged her supplies, fingers trembling with anticipation. It was a mess. Canvases leaned haphazardly against one wall, splashes of color adorned every corner, and a faint smell of turpentine lingered in the air, a chaotic testament to her scattered thoughts and unspoken dreams. Could this be her sanctuary? Mike settled beside her, radiating encouragement. What's your vision? He signed, his skilled movements drawing her in, commanding her attention. Jenna hesitated, the words swirling in her head. She wanted to exude her inspiration, her very essence, but would it resonate? I want to create a world where silence speaks, she signed, her heart racing. Colors, shapes, feelings, all of it. His eyes reflected sincerity, making her feel seen in ways she hadn't anticipated. There was a moment of silence, the air thick with understanding. He hadn't responded with doubt or disdain, just the profound weight of shared creativity. Let us start, he encouraged, with renewed determination. Jenna picked up a brush, the well-worn bristles gripped firmly in her hand. As she painted, vivid strokes began to transform the blank canvas before her. Imaginary characters leapt onto the surface, reflecting her own struggles and aspirations. The colors exploded in an expressive frenzy, her emotions swirling into a vivid depiction of her inner turmoil. Each brushstroke felt like an act of defiance against the invisible chains binding her. The realization washed over her like a wave. She was not merely painting, she was reclaiming her voice, yet, pressing against her joy was an undeniable fear, the looming reality of her father's potential wrath. He had always been a powerful presence in her life, a looming figure whose expectations weighed heavily on her decisions. The thought of disappointing him simmered beneath her veins, a corrosive doubt threatening her determination. "Is everything okay?" Mike's concerned demeanor urged her to communicate, to share the turbulence swirling in her mind. She hesitated. How could she articulate the fear of confronting the man who had paved her gilded path and yet stifled her spirit? Jenna took a deep breath and signed, "What if my father, what if he doesn't understand?" Mike nodded, his expression softening with empathy, recognizing the turmoil behind her question. "You'll never know unless you show him who you are," he signed back, his sincerity cutting through the thick fog of her doubt. As his words echoed in her mind, Jenna realized the truth within them. She had a choice. She could continue to shrink beneath expectations or firmly grasp her identity and forge a new path. Would she retreat into silence, or would she risk everything and embrace her newfound voice? With every color she unleashed on the canvas, Jenna felt the internal struggle shift. The synecdoche of her father's shadow was suddenly not so intimidating, not when juxtaposed with the creativity surging through her. "Tomorrow, I'll tell him," Jenna signed, each word punctuating her newfound commitment. As the final stroke met the canvas, a profound calm enveloped her. In acknowledging her fears, she had given them less power over her. She was choosing boldness. As she and Mike admired the day's creation, Jenna felt different. The battle within her was far from over, but every stroke on the canvas resembled a choice to defy, to communicate her truth. Tomorrow awaited with the potential for confrontation and uncertainty paired with excitement, a moment that would either bind her to her past or break her free. The question loomed tantalizingly: would her father accept her newfound path, or would it drive a wedge deeper between them? The weighty silence before the next chapter of her life beckoned, and Jenna felt a thrilling anticipation for what lay ahead. Morning light streamed through the studio windows, illuminating the chaos of Jenna's sanctuary, casting long shadows that felt both fragile and resilient. Today was a pivot. Sitting in front of the canvas, she found herself oscillating between excitement and a lingering apprehension. Her heart raced, not just from the beauty of the artwork, but from the weight of the decision she had rested upon her shoulders like a heavy cloak. She had decided to confront her father, to reveal the artist she was becoming. A part of her feared how he might react. The man who had shaped every inch of her existence would surely resist her transformation. Yet, the urge to be authentic surged stronger than the fear. This was a pivotal moment in her personal narrative, a defining step toward whom she was destined to be. In the stillness of the studio, Jenna took a deep breath, grounding herself. She picked up her brush, the vibrant colors inviting her to unleash their potential. Each stroke felt electric, propelled by a conviction stronger than mere anger or rebellion. It was passion and the desire for connection, both to herself and her father. She carefully laid down shades of blue and green, representing the uncertainty mixed with hope. "Remember, Jenna, your truth is your strength," Mike's words echoed in her mind, prompting her to reconsider her approach. She glanced at her latest creation, a dynamic clash of colors, symbols of her conflict, aspirations, and ultimately, her courage. As she painted, Jenna's thoughts wandered briefly. What would she say? Would the words flow as seamlessly as the paint on the canvas? Or would they falter, caught in the choking grip of doubt? Saying the truth out loud felt monumental. She envisioned the moment vividly, standing in her father's posh office, overwhelmed by the grandeur of his success yet intent on breaking free from the mold he'd crafted for her. She paused, her brush hovering, contemplating a crucial detail. How could she express the intricate tapestry of her fears and dreams? The idea of rationality clashed sharply with her personal desires. More than anything, she wanted to convey that this new path was not a deviation but the very essence of who she was. The hours melted away as Jenna lost herself in her painting. She poured every fragment of her essence into it, feeling each brushstroke heal the wounds left by expectation. This art symbolized her metamorphosis. It stood tall as a testament that she could no longer live in shadow. Then, with a sudden surge of clarity, Jenna set the brush down. The canvas was complete. As she stepped back, she felt a mix of elation and sobering reality. The creation now lived and breathed before her, a vivid embodiment of her identity. Yet, the confrontation was looming, and doubt began to creep in. What if her father dismissed her efforts? What if he saw only resistance instead of authenticity? She had to address these fears head-on. The thought of failing, of disappointing him, gnawed at her. But even deeper was the need for validation, not from her father's accolades, but from the truth of her own vision. Transformational moments such as this often contain the bittersweet blend of exhilaration and terror. Jenna knew the stakes. Her journey propelled her toward a crossroads that echoed both past and future. While she yearned for acceptance, she understood that acceptance might not come easily or even at all. Determined, Jenna straightened, the sun framing her against the canvas. She realized this was no longer just about her, but about forging a legacy that embraced her as she was, unembellished and rare. Today she would not allow fear to dictate her actions. As she gathered her supplies and prepared to leave the studio, she whispered to herself, "Today is my day." The stakes felt more profound than ever, preparing her for an emotional confrontation that could lead to liberation or heartbreak. Her fingers tingled with excitement and uncertainty as she drove toward her father's office, a canvas full of possibilities. What awaited her in that office moment? Would he embrace her artistic spirit, or would he dismiss it, leading Jenna to reconsider everything she had believed? Navigating the path fraught with expectations and desires, she was ready not just to speak her truth but to expose the raw art of who she had become. The moment was approaching. She would be there soon, and it promised to alter her reality forever. As Jenna parked her car outside her father's office building, she felt a dissonance echoing within her. The sleek architectural lines formed a daunting facade, mirroring the finely cultivated persona of the man who had built this empire. She glanced at her reflection in the rearview mirror, the confidence she had felt moments ago wavering at the sight of her own uncertainty. Bolstering herself, she stepped out and made her way inside, each stride a mix of determination and doubt. The elevator ride felt interminable as she mentally rehearsed her lines, crafting an imaginary conversation that would both reveal her truth and shatter the expectations perpetuated by her father. This was not merely a confrontation, it was the reckoning of a daughter seeking acceptance and love on her terms. When the doors opened, Jenna was greeted by the polished brightness of the lobby and the subtle ambience of bustling professionals drifting through. She felt a rush of nostalgia mixed with an unsettling sense of alienation. Amidst the sterile environment, she was acutely aware of her place and the gulf that her chosen path had created. She approached the receptionist, a cheerful woman who seemed oblivious to the emotional turmoil unfolding behind Jenna's composed exterior. "I'm here to see Mr. Talbot," she stated, her voice steady even as the butterflies in her stomach began to swarm. The receptionist nodded and gestured toward the conference room down the hall. As Jenna walked toward the door, she reflected on how many times she had been the dutiful daughter, eager to please her father's vision while stifling her own aspirations in the background. She had meticulously built a facade that fit the mold, but now, that same mold felt suffocating. Taking a deep breath, Jenna opened the door. Inside, her father sat behind a grand oak desk, absorbed in a phone call. The exertion of focused dominance emanated from him, making the room feel both powerful and intimidating. As he concluded the call, Jenna squared her shoulders and stepped further inside. "Dad," she began, her voice shaking slightly but firm. He looked up, his expression shifting from surprise to taut neutrality. The silence hung between them, a stark reminder of the years where words were often unsaid and feelings left unacknowledged. "Jenna," he replied coolly, laying his phone down. "What brings you here?" His casual tone tugged at her resolve. "I wanted to talk," she replied, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. "About my artwork." His eyebrows knitted together slightly, a reaction that both fueled her courage and intensified the anxiety bubbling beneath her surface. This was no casual conversation, it was a pivotal moment. "I've been painting, Dad, really painting. And it means everything to me. I want you to see it." His eyes flickered with confusion, perhaps even skepticism. "You've always dabbled, Jenna. It's just a hobby. What makes you think you can turn it into something significant?" The dismissal hit her like a punch to the gut, but she refused to allow despair to steal her momentum. "I know it sounds like that, but it's so much more. This is not just a phase. Painting allows me to express everything I've felt for so long." As the words tumbled out, Jenna felt liberation alongside her trepidation. She leaned into the unsteady ground beneath her, unearthing the layers of suppressed truth. I want to show you the piece I just completed. It's not about approval, it's about sharing who I've become. His expression hardened, reflective of a man grappling with the unexpected. She wanted to grab onto that moment, to dissolve the presumed barriers between them. This is my life, Dad. And it's time I live it authentically. His silence bore down on her, and in it, she saw trials yet to unfold. Would he see her vision or reduce her to an artist chasing an impractical dream? I'm not here to talk you into it, Jenna, he finally said, his voice steely. But if this is what you want, you need to understand the implications. In that instant, two paths lay before her, to retreat into the shadows of compliance. Or stand firmly in the light of her truth. The stakes were rising, shaping the contours of their relationship in real time. Then let us talk about those implications, Dad. What do you really think of my art? Because living under your shadow has made me realize how little I've expressed my own voice. Her words hung in the air, an offering paired with vulnerability. Would he finally acknowledge her as an artist, or would the ghosts of their past continue to shackle her? As she awaited his response, the weight of the moment pressed hard against her spirit, leaving her breathless. The conversation, much like her journey, was becoming an intricate dance of hope and anxiety. In the churning silence, Jenna could feel the potential for connection or further division. The stakes were higher than ever. The moment was fragile. What decision would her father make as this unexpected terrain unfolded? Jenna stood there, the air thick with unspoken words and heavy expectation. Her father leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled before him, a habit she had always associated with deep contemplation or, more often, resistance. As each second ticked by, Jenna felt her heart race with anticipation, the need for validation intertwined with the fear of rejection. Your art, he finally began, a hint of challenge flickering in his eyes, is merely a path of escape, isn't it? Something to fill the void? The sting of his words pierced her, but instead of crumbling, a fire ignited within. No, Dad. It's not an escape, it's an exploration. Each brushstroke helps me confront the bottled emotions that have lingered too long. You taught me to be driven, but in doing so, you've built walls I've struggled to break down. Painting is my way of tearing them down. His expression shifted slightly, perhaps considering her perspective a fleeting glimmer of understanding. Yet, she sensed it wasn't enough. Do you honestly believe you'll be able to maintain this lifestyle? His tone, though laced with concern, felt suffocating. The dedication it takes to succeed in art is not unlike the commitment required to thrive in business. She interjected, drawing on the stubbornness that had been a family trait. Why is it that you view my desire with skepticism, while your path has received unwavering support? This creativity is my business now. He remained silent, his gaze unwavering. Jenna took a step forward, confronting the years of indoctrination that made her feel less than enough. You've always said that success comes from hard work, Dad. I want to apply that same diligence to my art. But my definition of success is painted in colors you may not see. For the first time, she felt an exhilarating sense of liberation, as if shedding the layers of his expectations could finally reveal her true self. Each brush of the canvas had become an instrument for growth and expression of her authentic voice. Jenna, he replied slowly, as if testing each word, it isn't just about making art. What about stability? A secure future? What happens when the world stops seeing your talent and only focuses on your failures? The conversation had escalated, each point a jagged edge threatening to cut even deeper. Yet, uncertainty brought unfamiliar determination. What if this is my future? What if I fail or succeed? I accept those risks. But I cannot accept living through your standards, your structured life, when I dream of a canvas splattered with my own choices. His jaw set tight. Jenna saw her father wrestling with the shift in narrative. This was new for him, she could feel it. The heft of management and decisions weighed against the fragile essence of creativity. Here she was, breaking from the pattern he had perpetuated, confident that she could chart an untraveled course. Is this truly about the art, or is it about my approval? He probed, a flicker of vulnerability creeping into his demeanor. Maybe both, Jenna conceded, her voice softening. But more than anything, it's about being seen for who I am. I've tried to blend into the mold you crafted but have only ended up feeling invisible. In that moment of truth, an unsettling wave washed over her. She realized that what lay beneath this confrontation was not merely about art but the intricacies of their relationship. This was an opportunity not only to showcase her work but also to redefine their connection. The silence persisted as they looked at each other, both grappling silently with the weight of the moment. Yet, Jenna sensed that this dialogue could lead to something fragile yet essential, a partnership built on understanding rather than prescriptive roles. Will you come see my work? She finally asked, the vulnerability in her voice piercing through the tension like a ray of sunlight. That he hesitated, the distance between them palpable, but something shifted in his gaze. A tentative inclination to bridge the gap formed on a foundation of acceptance was brewing. Maybe, he whispered, the word hanging between them like an unthreaded promise. The uncertainty was there, but so was a flicker of hope, his defenses slowly beginning to thaw. Feeling the weight of that glimmer, Jenna's heart raced. This was just the beginning. Could they turn this tentative step into a fully realized transformation in their relationship? As she left the office, the reality settled within her. The next chapter had started, but deep down, she understood that navigating through it would require both courage and vulnerability. How much further would she need to go to find the full acceptance she craved? The tension hung heavy in the air, the conversation only the tip of the iceberg. The question loomed large: would her father ever truly embrace her passion, or would his doubt continue to cast shadows over her journey into self-discovery? Jenna stepped out of her father's office, the weight of the conversation lingering in the air like a charged atmosphere before a storm. The city's cacophony seemed muted, each sound blurring as she navigated her way through the bustling streets. A new kind of determination surged within her, infused not only by her recent confrontation but also by the flicker of doubt she had seen in her father's eyes. She recalled his words, a subtle suggestion that perhaps there was room for her art in his world. But the task ahead was daunting. It required not just her talent but an unwavering resolve to redefine their relationship. What if she didn't just paint for her satisfaction? What if, for the first time, she painted for someone else's understanding? The challenge enticed her. A few blocks from her studio, she stopped at a small cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air, embracing her like an old friend. Jenna settled into a corner table, pulling out her sketchbook. The paper felt rough and inviting beneath her fingers. Each stroke of her pencil was a step toward clarity and outline of who she wanted to be, not just as an artist but as a daughter. In the days that followed, Jenna committed herself to a relentless routine. Mornings were for painting, afternoons for studying the mechanics of art marketing. She immersed herself in literature about branding and reaching audiences, learning how to present herself authentically without feeling diluted by commercial tactics. This merge of artistry and strategy felt thrilling, like mining for gold in a mountainous terrain. In this pursuit, Jenna discovered nascent skills within herself, skills her father had once regarded solely as traits meant for the boardroom. She embraced meetings with local gallery owners, ended conversations with a confidence that surprised her, and negotiated terms that seemed a leap from her previously timid self. Each connection felt like a brushstroke in an evolving masterpiece, but doubts gnawed at her. Would her father ever respect this new side of her? Returning home one evening, Jenna found her father engrossed in his work, poring over financial reports that always seemed to overshadow their personal lives. Taking a breath, she approached him. "Can we talk?" She ventured, her heart fluttering with anxiety. His eyes lifted from the pages, curiosity mixing with caution. About the gallery showing I'm planning. I want to invite you." He leaned back, assessing her. "Are you sure? I thought you wanted to keep this separate from what we do." "It's not separate, it's part of me," she replied with fervor. "This is everything I've worked for. I want you to see it, to understand where I'm coming from, what I'm creating." A moment of silence unfolded, the tension palpable. Would he dismiss her again, brushing aside her ambition with a comforting platitude? "I want to support you, Jenna," he finally said, his voice steady yet lined with uncertainty. "But I fear you might be walking down a path that leads to disappointment." I understand that fear, she shot back, unwavering. But isn't the risk worth it? Isn't pursuing what we love the only way to find fulfillment? He looked away, the conflict evident in his demeanor. Jenna pressed on, willing him to see the conviction that burned within her, a flame that refused to extinguish. I don't want to live in your shadow anymore. I want to embrace the uncertainty. I want to create art that speaks my truth. Whatever that truth may be. His eyes met hers. In that shared gaze, Jenna felt a strange intertwining of their narratives, a possibility for reconciliation woven delicately into her own aspirations. Finally, he nodded slowly. I'll come, he said, softly, yet carrying a weight of hesitance. But promise me you'll think seriously about what happens next. Success isn't always guaranteed, and I want you to be prepared for the reality. Her heart surged at his willingness, his acceptance of her endeavor. I promise, she said, not fully understanding how deeply unscripted this promise would become. That night, Jenna could hardly sleep. The thought of revealing her work to her father beckoned her anxious mind, yet there was a thrill in the uncertainty that lay ahead. Her future splashed with unpredictability and potential. As sleep finally curled her into its embrace, a new thought sharpened through the haze of fatigue. If this artistic journey could transform not only her but also her relationship with her father, what else was waiting to be uncovered? Was she ready to face the potential fallout that could arise from such a risk? The true depth of her exploration was just beginning, and she couldn't help but wonder what hidden dimensions of her father's past might influence this pivotal moment, and how could they reshape everything she thought she knew about herself. The gallery showing was just 2 weeks away, and Jenna's world vibrated with anticipation, each passing hour expanding her resolve. She had poured herself into the final pieces, channeling her emotions onto the canvas with a ferocity she hadn't fully realized was possible. Every brushstroke felt like a declaration of independence, a rebellious nod to her identity as both an artist and a daughter. Each night, she worked late into the dark, the solitary light of her studio illuminating her as the city outside buzzed with life. It was both exhilarating and isolating, this journey she had embarked upon. There was no denying the doubts creeping in. What if her father dismissed her art? What if it failed to resonate, leaving her vulnerable? But doubts were unavoidable, she reasoned as she set her easel for the night. They had to coexist with her determination, fierce and unwavering. One evening, as Jenna layered paint over canvas, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. Unmade hair, paint-stained hands, and eyes glimmering with purpose. For the first time, she saw not just a young woman trying to carve out her space, but an artist willing to confront her deepest fears. She was ready to share her truth, not only with her artwork but with her father. With every passing day, the gallery's excitement thrummed louder in her veins. She had arranged for concepts of her pieces to be projected on screens, integrating her journey with a narrative that could resonate with the audience. This wasn't merely a display of her art, it was a way for others to glimpse her transformation and the connection she sought with her father. Her father's acceptance lingered in her mind, shaping her approach. She recalled the tautness in his voice, the veiled worries, and she wondered if this event could act as a bridge between their worlds. As much as it was a chance to showcase her art, it was also an opportunity to rebuild something precious: trust and understanding. But would he be able to view her work through the lens of a father, or would he remain a CEO judging from a distance? The night of the showing arrived, and Jenna's heart raced as she stood at the entrance, her hands clammy. The gallery pulsed with an electric mix of excitement and dread. Friends, art enthusiasts, and critics flitted through the space with an air of anticipation, soaking in the ambience. Jenna had meticulously arranged a harmonious blend of her art's themes with soft lighting that danced across the walls. Each piece represented a different chapter of her journey, pulling emotions and stories from rich depths she had only begun to understand. But it was her father's presence that weighed most heavily on her. Would he see her? Would he notice the pieces were not just colors and forms, but an exploration of their relationship, of her desire for connection? As she scanned the crowded room, the sight of him made her breath hitch. He stood somewhat apart, his expression inscrutable as he surveyed the gallery. Jenna took a deep breath, grounding herself as she approached him. Every step was lined with courage, mingling apprehension and hope as she reached his side. "Do you want to see them?" she asked, her voice steady despite the maelstrom inside her. His gaze flickered to her, revealing the father she longed to connect with beneath the walls he had built. "Let me," he said quietly, and in that simple directive, she sensed an eagerness mixed with caution. With each piece they approached, Jenna explained her vision, the thoughts and feelings woven within the strokes. She felt renewed energy as she spoke, unveiling the layers of herself with each turn of the conversation. His responses were measured, glimmers of recognition caught in his eyes. Would he come to understand her truths, or would he cling to what he believed? As they stood before the final piece of vibrant representation of their fractured relationship, she held her breath. This was her leap. The culmination of her aspirations, not just as an artist, but as Jenna. In that moment, amidst the gathering crowd, she realized the risk she took extended beyond her art. She was risking her heart, her understanding of family, and a future she had yet to define. But then, his expression shifted, something deep within him stirred, and the silence stretched. Would this be the moment of connection she had long sought, or a plunge into unexpected territory? The tension loomed, knitting doubt and hope into an electric thread that connected them in ways neither comprehended yet. "Jenna," he began, and the weight of utterance made her pulse quicken. Her heart raced as she braced herself, feeling the thrill of vulnerability. Whatever came next could mean everything. What would he say? Would he see her before him, truly see her for the first time? "Let me show you what this means." What doors would this dialogue crack open, or would it lead them both back to silence? As Jenna stared at her father, the moment hung in the air, thick with anticipation. She could feel her heart racing, each beat echoing the conflict raging within her. How would he process the depth of what she had laid before him? As the crowd swirled around them, her focus narrowed to just him. "Let me show you what this means," he had said, but a shadow of uncertainty danced across his features. Did he truly understand the significance of what he was about to acknowledge? Or was he simply searching for the right words to maintain his distance? Jenna's thoughts spiraled. She had invested everything into this moment, every brushstroke, every late night, every tear had led her to stand here, vulnerable and exposed. Yet, as her father stepped back to examine the painting further, she felt an overwhelming urge to chase after his gaze, to plummet into the emotional depths she had crafted. "Dad, this piece," she began, her voice firm despite the quivering uncertainty within. "It's about us. About how I've felt seeing you always busy, and how I've longed to share parts of my life with you." She stood on the precipice, ready to delve into feelings she had buried for years. His brow furrowed thoughtfully, inching closer to understanding but still held at an arm's length by his professional demeanor. She could see the gears turning in his mind. He was processing, analyzing, likely even judging. "Your art is complex," he said slowly, emphasizing the word as if testing its weight against his perception. "But are you sure this is what you want to communicate? It opens up a lot of emotions." "I want to communicate what I feel," she replied, a sharp edge of desperation creeping into her tone. "I don't want us to keep tiptoeing around what's real. I want you to see me not as your daughter trying to fit into a box but as an artist, as someone who struggles with our relationship just as much as you do." A flicker of surprise crossed his face, and for a moment, she saw a veil of complication lift. This was new territory, an uncharted emotional landscape for both of them. Would they navigate it together, or would he retreat back into his fortress of practicality? "Jenna," he began, his voice an unnerving mixture of firmness and tenderness, "art is subjective. And I am a businessman, my life is in structured forms and strategies. Can we not view this as a moment of separation rather than connection?" The hardness of his words struck her, tears prickled at the corners of her eyes. "Do you think I want to be separated from you?" she asked, emotion swelling as anger mingled with hurt. "I've been trying so hard to reach out and share my world with you. Understand, I want to be there for you," he replied, a rare sense of vulnerability flickering in his eyes. "It's just this is new for me." Jenna swallowed, recognizing the wall he was battling against. "It's new for me, too. But if we can start somewhere, even with something difficult, maybe we can find a way to build that bridge." His silence engulfed them both. Did he grasp the sincerity of her plea? Moments stretched and writhed, the tension electrifying as she waited for his answer. All right, show me, he finally said, a tentative agreement that made her pulse quicken with mingled hope and fear. It was a small step, yet the potential for both connection and conflict loomed large. As they both turned towards the artwork again, eyes locked onto the swirling colors of their stories, Jenna wondered whether this could be the beginning of a new dimension to their relationship. An unpredictable path lay ahead, shaped of raw honesty and vulnerability. Would this exploration yield healing or fracture further what was already fragile? The question lingered as they leaned into the depths of her creation, navigating uncharted territories together. Jenna felt the air crackle with an unfolding truth, an awakening born of collision. She pondered, what if this was the first step in breaking the cycle of silence? What if speaking her truths could draw them closer, or would it force them apart? Let us go deeper, she murmured, her heart pounding as they stood on the edge of discovery, ready to plunge into a dialogue that could either heal or shatter everything they understood. As his gaze intensified, she knew the stakes had never been higher. The truth awaited them, a revelation threatening to spill into the open, where hope resided side by side with fear. Would they emerge united or broken? In that charged moment, under the flickering lights and surrounded by eager voices, Jenna sensed that this conversation could redefine everything she believed about family and connection, and nothing would be quite the same again. Days turned into weeks as Jenna stood at the precipice of a new chapter in her life, both as an artist and as a daughter. The gallery showing had ignited something within her, causing sparks of change to dance in the corners of her reality. Each brushstroke on the canvas reflected not only her burgeoning artistic talents but also her intention to confront the shadows of expectation that had haunted her for far too long. The initial nervousness she felt before the gallery began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of agency. She had begun presenting art pieces not merely as expressions of her turmoil but as manifestations of her journey, intertwined with her pursuit of connection with her father. The aftermath of that emotional confrontation in the gallery painted a vivid picture. Her father had shown a flicker of interest, a willingness to engage deeper with her art, and that meant everything to Jenna. She spent countless hours in her studio, experimenting and creating work that blazed with her unique voice. Each piece unfolded in ways she had never anticipated, welcoming her to explore topics like identity, love, and the fragility of human connection. Her once timid brushstrokes transformed into bold expressions, demonstrating her growth as an artist committed to claiming her authenticity. The once frosted atmosphere of fear morphed into a warm glow of determination. Now, her next ambition felt like a dream within reach, organizing her first solo exhibition. This was no longer just about showcasing her art, it was a chance to present to everyone herself, her father, and the world the culmination of her evolution. She meticulously planned the event, incorporating narratives that reflected her journey of self-discovery, intertwining her artwork with the emotions she sought to unfurl. When the date finally arrived, Jenna entered the gallery with a shimmering mix of thrill and trepidation. The backdrop of the vibrant city meanwhile outside faded into insignificance. Here, she was the architect of her own narrative, ready to bridge the gap between her father and herself, to transform mere silence into a resounding dialogue filled with love. As guests milled about, Jenna's gaze fell upon the entrance where her father stood, his figure framed against the light like a still from a movie. When Jenna looked at him, she felt a blend of pride and vulnerability, a reflection of the complicated feelings they had navigated together. He stepped forward, lingering not at her art as others might but seeking to connect with her, to be an active participant in her journey. "These pieces are incredible, Jenna," he murmured, his voice genuine, filled with awe. "Dad, this isn't just art, it expresses everything I've felt in our relationship," she responded, the words pouring out with unfiltered openness. As they moved closer together, Jenna could feel the unsteady ground shifting beneath their feet, opening new pathways for communication. That he nodded, his expression softening as he studied the layers of joy, a piece suffused with warm hues that depicted both chaos and serenity. "I see the struggle you expressed here, Jenna. It's exhilarating, but also frightening. Isn't that what art is? A thrilling journey of vulnerability? You don't need to stoop to your business mindset. Embrace what this means for us," she said earnestly, her voice steady and filled with passion. That night culminated as they engaged in candid dialogue, laying bare the expectations, fears, and hopes they had each held onto so tightly. Jenna realized that their relationship had always hovered in potential, locked away behind expectations now unlocked through her creativity. As the event wound down, guests departed, and her heart felt lighter. Jenna turned to her father, a small smile breaking through the weight of the night. "Thank you for coming," she said, warmth bubbling in her chest as he paused, contemplating before replying. "In all honesty, Jenna, this has changed everything for me. I understand now the importance of not minimizing who you are. You're not just my daughter, you're an accomplished artist with remarkable insight." In that moment, she recognized the metamorphosis they both had undergone. Where silence had once shackled her, it had now morphed into a powerful voice. She had conquered the fears that sought to cage her, mastering the artistry of reclaiming her narrative while steering toward the light, a light illuminated not just for herself but for the relationship she'd been determined to heal. Gratitude and satisfaction coursed through her veins. She felt solid confidence in her well-deserved recognition, a self-affirmation blossoming vibrantly. At last, she was no longer just the silent daughter of a CEO but an artist weaving her dreams into reality with every stroke of her brush, no longer confined to the shadow of her father's expectations. As they embraced, Jenna felt an intense surge of fulfillment wash over her, erasing the years trapped in uncertainty. She had achieved much more than individual growth. She had proved that connection could flourish even from the deepest divides, turning a new page in her life. Jenna stared at the vibrant canvases reflecting her satisfaction, a legacy of her own making. This was not an ending, it was the beginning of everything she wanted to create. Are you inspired by Jenna's journey of transformation? Don't miss out on more powerful stories like this. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is crucial. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Let's discuss. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.